You can add Judge Amit Mehta, make that 5 judges in the D.C. Courts who have now opposed Donald Trump and his pardon and commutation of sentences for the Jan 6 defendants, the ones who were convicted beyond a reasonable doubt of trying to overthrow our democracy and government by violent means, with seditious conspiracy as their charges. While they some of which might have gotten pardons, some of which might have had just their sentences commuted, meaning that their guilty verdicts stay on the books. These judges are all linked together, and now I'm going to talk about Judge Mehta and the difference between the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, because there's a lot of confusion about that, about what Donald Trump did to which and why one group was given a full pardon and the other group only had their sentence commuted, meaning shortened, keeping their conviction on their books. I'm Michael Popok. You're on the Midas Touch Network and Legal AF. Let's get to it. I've done a lot of reporting here on the network and on Legal AF, the YouTube channel, about how federal judges are responding to Donald Trump's, in their view, disgusting, amoral, inappropriate, sacrilegious, if you will, pardons and other commutations of sentences and clemency for Jan 6 insurrectionists, including the most violent ones, including the ones that attacked 5 different groups of law enforcement in and around the Capitol. Now, their response, it can be limited in a way. It depends on where the person is in the process along the continuum. And that I'll also describe the big difference between the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. And let me do a spoiler alert here. The big difference is Roger Stone. Remember that name? I'll get to it at the end of this hot take. Let's talk about the differences. Those that were convicted, regardless of their crimes, including the most violent, and jailed, whether the D.C. jail or in the Federal Bureau of Prisons for their permanent assignment, that group were pardoned under that, that's the golden ticket for presidential clemency. They were literally let out of jail. It was a giant gold key that opened up the doors and all these people came flooding out. They're home already. I mean, the day of the pardon, people like Enrique Tarrio with the Proud Boys, who was convicted and sentenced to 22 years in prison, was home partying in Miami. Yeah, that's the group that's in prison. Pardon, prison, release. Done. Now let's move to the group that is still in process. The group that's still in process means they have been detained or not detained, awaiting sentencing or trial, bench or jury. What happens to that group? Well, if they were pardoned, if they obtained a pardon and they hadn't yet been sentenced or they hadn't yet been tried, then the indictment needs to be addressed by the Article 3 judge, right? Yes, under the Article 3 judge. So Article 1 power is in Congress, legislative branch. Article 2, the presidency. Article 3, the judges. So with their Article 3 power to administer justice, they have an indictment they have to deal with. Most of the judges are not dismissing those indictments, even though there's a pardon in place for these Jan 6 defendants with prejudice, meaning it can never come back. They're leaving open the door ever so slightly for a future Department of Justice, meaning a Democratic one, to go after these people again. Court of Appeals to decide whether, if in a clemency commutation of sentence scenario, a federal judge continues to maintain jurisdiction and power and authority, equitable authority, inherent authority, to manage the post-release conditions of this particular defendant. Yes or no? There is case law on this already, and I think that sides with Judge Mehta. It may go up to the United States Supreme Court. We'll make new law again by these guys. And the fundamental question is going to be, does a judge, federal judge, after the commutation of a sentence, retain jurisdiction to set conditions of release? Yes or no? We will see. I think he's on the right side of the angels on that decision, for sure. Now let me turn to Roger Stone. If you lined them up, if I stripped away their titles, Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, and I just told you what they did, they're doppelgangers. They're virtually the same. Oath Keepers would scare the crap out of Proud Boys in a dark alley and vice versa. They all were coordinated. They're all former military. They all used tactical weapons. They all used tactical approaches. They all fought battles on the Western Terrace, on the front steps, inside the court, inside the seat of our democracy. You use some version of bear spray and weapons against the police. All used communications devices to coordinate and filmed it all and put it on social media. Almost identical. They didn't coordinate, apparently. Maybe they didn't. What's the big difference? Roger Stone. Roger Stone saw the Proud Boys as his personal bodyguards. They were always with Roger Stone. Who's Roger Stone? He's that shadowy figure that really invented Stop the Steal back in 2016. He was talking about Stop the Steal before the election had even happened. He's a former Nixon White House counselor. In fact, I'm not making this up. Roger Stone, who is, how do I put this, eccentric, peculiar, has a giant tattoo on his back of Richard Nixon. Okay. Fell into the Donald Trump orbit. Got pardoned at one point by Donald Trump, Roger Stone did. Sought a pardon related to Jan 6 because he was also involved with the War Room. Did not get that pardon, that second pardon, but there's still time with Donald Trump. He just got in on Tuesday. And has generally been an advisor and a counselor for all sorts of dirty tricks for Donald Trump. I think he was a lawyer, lives in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and other places. He shows up with like a bowler, like he looks like, he stepped out of some 1940s movie with these broad pinstripe suits and crazy eyewear. We'll put up some photos. But he had used for years Proud Boys as his personal bodyguards in and out of courts, at press conferences, anything involving Donald Trump and the rest. It was almost like, the Brothers of Islam years ago protecting the civil rights leaders, like Martin Luther King and others. And so I am sure, I have a reasonable suspicion that Roger Stone talked to Donald Trump and said, not my Proud Boys. Don't let my Proud Boys just get their sentences commuted. They're great. They're defending democracy. Many of those Proud Boys, by the way, ran for office and are in Republican politics down in Miami, led by Enrique Tarrio, who's now out. And so I think the big difference because if you line them up, as I said, they're identical. They're two sides of the same coin. But one got their sentences only commuted and kept their convictions on the books, and the other, like Enrique Tarrio, with a higher sentence for doing more bad things, was partying in Miami the same night as the pardons were given out. The difference is Roger Stone, I'm sure of it. We'll continue to follow all of it right here and break it down for you on the Midas Touch Network and on Legal AF. Let me just go through some of the things that you can do to support this pro-democracy, completely independent, people-powered network and channel that I'm on. First of all, I've gone full-time on the Midas Touch Network and all things Legal AF since the election, for very good reason. I think I do about 15 to 20 videos on the Midas Touch Network at the intersection of law and politics issues. And then we formed 2 months before the election in collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, Legal AF, the YouTube channel that I curate. And I do about 5 or 6 videos a day there, along with other collaborators like Dina Dahl, like Court Accountability's Actions, Lisa Graves and Alex Aronson, like Shan Wu and the rest. Go over there. We added 50,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. This past month, all free, people-powered, at the intersection of law and politics. We're bringing you what you need, what you demand.
Brett told Fox News Digital in a statement. That's why American oil and natural gas producers look forward to working with Trump administration goal for energy dominance and providing affordable, reliable, and ever cleaner energy for the American people. Trump nominee in all three departments have signed that they intend to implement new policy and guidelines that significantly increase oil and gas production while easing regulations at the same time. When energy production is restricted in America, it does not reduce demand. It just shifts production to countries like Russia and Iran, whose autocratic leaders not only don't care at all about the environment, but they use their revenue for energy sales to refund wars against US and other allies. DUI Secretary nominate